let's talk about creating this digital infrastructure that we have all been talking about and discussing. And I remember first tracking it in 2008. And today we are still talking a lot about the same challenges, and a lot of organizations are still at the initial phases of the journey. But all of you have been able to successfully execute on the strategy. So I'd like to start by asking a very simple question as to, has the narrative around cloud changed? It started off as a cost-saving initiative, and has it shifted?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with my journey towards the cloud and how it has shifted towards it. Our journey, especially for the Service New South Wales, it started about a few years ago with the typical problem of scalability, agility, and also availability. Back then, about 4 years ago, when we were looking at the journey started with the specific problem statements. We had to start with a POC to see, what can we do? And then from the POC stage, we went and picked up a product which is very high transactional volume. At the same time, it had a lot of customer impact. And we tried that on our cloud, one of the public clouds, and that cloud journey was successful. That built the basis of my entire life journey for the cloud migration program, I call it. That's the starting point. Maybe I can pass on to you and others to see how we go.
Sure. So I think it's a really interesting question, because I've seen so many IT executives fail on that cost-saving initiative because they think about it all wrong. Cloud doesn't save you a lot of money server for server replacement, and that's where a lot of people think that it will, and it just doesn't. Where it saves you a lot of money is it creates a platform of innovation that enables you to work really quickly in getting new technologies to bear, new frameworks out, new platforms out, that through just a really agile approach improve the business dramatically, and that's where the savings come through.
That is interesting, Steve. And Catherine, I think we spoke about some of these areas earlier. What has been your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the cost savings have definitely diminished if you stack up the managed service providers today in terms of public cloud, private cloud offerings there. My first rodeo with cloud was actually public cloud commencing back in 2014. We were quite an early adopter in a financial services company, and we did achieve some cost out because we were paying, I think back then, $3 per gig of storage a month. And, we're in the cents now and even fractions of a cent. So, we were able to drive some significant cost out, but I think, that is eroded over time. And I think if that's the conversation, if you're embarking on your cloud journey for the first time around trying to get executive buy-in, then there's going to be some nasty surprises, I think. But I think absolutely, to Steve's point, you need to see it as an innovation enabler for your organisation. I'm sure everyone's got a customer-centric journey there, and you need to be able to scale your company rapidly. And cloud actually enables you to do that. You're not waiting, weeks or months for provisioning of services. That's happening in microseconds now as demand for your consumers is coming online.
I'd like to come to you, Glenn, as a global chief architect for AWS. What was the biggest value proposition that you started selling to your customers, and how had that changed until you joined Affinidi?
I think all of the three other panelists touched on it in many ways, but it's not about pure TCO cost saving. It was actually around, in the early days, around availability to new tech. The very first public cloud service ever was S3, which was an object file storage system that just didn't exist. There was no precursor to it. We all dealt with files or kind of block-based storage. This was the first public available object-based store, and developers started building fundamentally different applications on top of that. And then that just expanded over time to the hundreds and hundreds of services that are here today. And I think where it's really evolved to is that people have access to skills and it attracts the best talent in ways that if you are, to be blunt, stuck on really legacy infrastructure, operating models, governance, you're not going to attract that best talent. It's going to be really, really hard. And that problem I see is getting harder and harder as every year goes by. It's kind of, you've got to be using the right technology to attract the best talent into that organization. And that creates a flywheel of agility. And if you do that well, cost savings drop out of it. But it's not cost savings in direct comparisons. As Steve said, you can't compare it server to server. It is very much an apples and oranges comparison.